...2016 was a make-or-break year for me in video games. It was my first year with my new PC, and without it, I know I would have fallen out with gaming culture in a big way. I thought about getting a console before I built my rig, but after looking at exclusive lists for both the Xbox One and PS4, I wasn't very excited, and as much as the child in me wants to give Nintendo another shot, I just can't make myself spend hundreds of dollars for nostalgia. But I managed to justify a new gaming PC because I also wanted a workstation, and it was a good call. I got to catch up on a ton of stuff that I missed out on over the last 2 years, and play a lot of new games while they were hot. And while I had always understood that PC games are by nearly every technical measure better than their console counterparts, I didn't truly get it until now. Playing at 60 frames per second ultra quality is an amazing thing, and the process of building a machine from start to finish was gratifying in the same way that I imagine tuning up a car or building furniture might be. Still, it's hard to say that everything was perfect. I'm running a multi-GPU system in SLI, and while that's by and large a huge boost to performance across a majority of my games, it's also kind of a son of a bitch when it comes to capturing game footage. Take Hitman, for example. It ran really well with my 970s at times, but at others I got a lot of graphical artifacts and stuttering. And once I started OBS, it was a crapshoot with frame rate drops into the 20s and teens, at least until I disabled SLI and ran the game at medium with one card. Doom was the same way, and in fact was actually worse, dropping down to straight up unplayable levels several times until I said fuck it and disabled multi-GPU for capture purposes. But then I recorded more later with both cards enabled and it seemed to just work fine? I don't know. And there were at least 5 or 6 other games that just didn't seem to like that I had 2 graphics cards, giving me all sorts of weird little glitches and performance hitches. It's also hard for me to say that gaming online on PC is always a better experience. The barrier to entry with games like Rainbow Six Siege, Battlefield 1, and even Titanfall 2 is markedly higher on PC than it is on consoles, though I kind of expected as much. Still, getting one-shotted over and over on some maps, and Battlefield in particular, was egregious and soured me on the game quite a bit. But, all things considered, this year kept giving me more and more reasons to be happy with my PC, and I really loved a lot of games. So, without further ado, here are my top games of 2016 in no particular order. The Witness. The thing that I'm still blown away by with this game is its purity of vision. The Witness really seems like it was exactly the game that designer Jonathan Blow wanted it to be. Even though its beautifully serene world is filled with more than 600 puzzles, nothing feels superfluous or half-baked with this game. It's a wholly complete and thorough exercise in how one simple mechanic can be extrapolated into new novel challenges over and over and over. Against my better judgment, I recommended this game to pretty much every gamer I know despite its brutal difficulty, because it's just so damn satisfying figuring out these puzzles. And while some would probably dismiss the philosophy and intellectual foundation that's uncovered slowly through audio and video logs throughout the game, I found it all really fascinating. I'd still come back to The Witness just to experience the quiet intrigue of it all. It's a really well-designed game. Doom. If I go to The Witness for pensive discovery, I come to Doom for pretty much the opposite, entrancing brutality. This game has been in development since 2008, and it would have been a miracle if it ended up half as good as it is, and I'm kinda stunned that it managed to pull this one off. The flow of combat in Doom is downright intoxicating, and a lot of that has to do with the mix of old school weapons and new school glory kills that let you chain gory eviscerations from enemy to enemy. Doom's campaign was a little bit too long, and some of the level design left a bit to be desired, and don't even get me started on the multiplayer and Snap Map. But the introduction of a new arcade mode in October sucked me right back in again. If you've ever thought, boy, they don't make shooters like they used to, then pick up Doom. It's everything you wanted from a remake of this series, and then some. Overwatch. Overwatch is a delightful game. Blizzard has taken Pixar-style animation, Team Fortress 2's class-based shooting, and the depth of Street Fighter's combatants and mixed it all into a package that's really easy to approach. By all rights, this game shouldn't be this friendly, but from the very first matches I played, it was a breeze. And it still offers some of the most intense showdowns of any online shooter I've played in a long time, as your team works in tandem to synergize and outsmart the other team. I haven't put much time into the game so far, but the last time me and my buddies played, we got stuck in the telltale trap of playing just one more match to get one last loot box before we ended the night, and that ended up turning into 5 or 6 matches. If that isn't a sign of how great Overwatch is, then I don't know what is. Titanfall II. In my review of Titanfall 2, I said that I thought it was the best shooter of the year, and I still stand by that statement, having played both Overwatch and Battlefield 1. The fact that a shooter in 2016 goes this fast is just bonkers, but it's so refined that it feels second nature after just a few hours. I still have reservations about the PC community's ability to keep this game going, but I still want to see what Respawn can do with this one. Their commitment to put out new content for free is really encouraging, especially given that DICE is asking Battlefield 1 fanatics to shell out more than $100 for the premium version of that game. I've hoped and dreamt that the PC community will grow with this game, and the verdict is really still out on whether or not it will, but I'll still be playing this well into 2017 regardless. It'd just be nice to see a bigger player count to balance out player skill levels. Hitman. Now, this is the Hitman game that we've needed for years now. IO has finally dropped the shitty exploitation film flavor that made Blood Money and Absolution more than a little bit tasteless, and made the spy game that I never knew I wanted. Every level is so packed with choices and hilarious moments that they demand multiple playthroughs just so you can play in the sandbox and figure out more secrets. It's a shame that I had a lot of technical issues with this game, and it's downright idiotic that this game has an online requirement, but I can't help but enjoy it. I mean, come on, where else can I distract a high-class fashion show with a fireworks display only to push one of my assassination targets over a ledge and onto the head of another? Nowhere, that's where. Dark Souls 3. So I've played every Souls game except for Bloodborne at this point, but even that didn't stop the latest entry in the Dark series from becoming a close second to the first game in my mind. It's true, after so many of these games, there aren't many surprises left, but the elegant decay of Dark Souls 3's visuals, coupled with the tightest swordplay of any in the series, really hammered home my love for this game. Online play is finally reliable and simple, and there's still at least one more DLC expansion to go. Dark Souls 2 left a really bad taste in my mouth, even though it was still a good game, but Dark Souls 3 has none of that, and I feel really satisfied and glad that I got to play through some of the best Japanese RPGs since the heyday of Final Fantasy. The game that I hope gets another life in 2017, The Binding of Isaac. This has been my go-to roguelike ever since Spelunky stopped doing it for me, but I've grown a little bit too familiar with the horrors of Isaac's basement in the last few months. But with a new expansion that was just released, it's looking like The Binding of Isaac is gonna creep back into my recently played list again soon. Sometimes the game can be really brutal in the way that randomly generated games can be, but it can also be really wacky, ridiculous fun. I'm really hoping that Afterbirth Plus keeps me occupied for a good long time in 2017. The game that I wish I had played months ago, Enter the Gungeon. If The Binding of Isaac doesn't pull me back in, then Enter the Gungeon probably is going to fill its spot. I just picked it up for dirt cheap, and it was worth every penny. With herpy-derp character animations, smooth pixel art that doesn't look cheap or overdone, plenty of secrets that are completely unknown to me, and crisp gameplay that's challenging but fair, this is looking like it's going to be another roguelike staple that I know I'm going to be coming back to. I heard good things when it first came out, but just didn't get around to it, and if I had gotten around to it, it might have just made my main list. It's really, really good. The game that kept on giving, Rocket League. So I've put in more than 100 hours with this game, and I don't foresee myself stopping anytime soon. Rocket League is absolutely an industry standard for how to support an online community well past launch. New modes, maps, cars, loot crates, and all sorts of aesthetic options have bolstered the core of this game, which was awesome from the start. I don't really know where Rocket League goes from here because right now it seems really stuffed with content, but with 60,000 plus people playing on the low end on any given night, 2017 is looking really bright for this one.
Take them on our own.
The game that I swear I'm gonna finally finish in 2017, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. I know that The Witcher 3 came out 2 years ago, but I needed a bit of a break away from open-world RPGs in 2016, and I think I'm finally ready to jump back in, especially given that I just picked up both DLCs for under $20. I was looking at my in-game stats, and I've actually put more than 60 hours into this game, but got the feeling that I wasn't even close to seeing Geralt and Ciri's story through. And I actually got into some of the Witcher books in 2016, and it's actually got me really excited to visit this world again. I just have to make sure that this doesn't turn into a holdover into 2018. So even though I had a pretty great year of gaming in 2016, I can't wait to see where 2017 takes us. I was lucky enough to go to PAX West last year, and the talk of the expo was definitely VR, but the lines were so atrociously long that I didn't really get a chance to try it myself. My perception of it so far is that it's really just kind of starting to move beyond the tech demo phase, and it's really starting to find some really cool application. But at $800 for the HTC Vive, I can't say that I'm really exactly champing at the bit to jump into it just yet. But even though 2017 seems really promising, I have to remember that 2016 showed a continuation of trends that are pretty disrespectful towards gamers. The practice of shipping games that aren't really finished isn't going anywhere with AAA titles. I mean, just look at Rainbow Six Siege. That game was literally broken for weeks on end for me, and some PC ports seem just straight up rough. Hitman is still a little shaky for me, despite the fact that I've got more than enough hardware to run it. And even games that I really enjoyed, like Titanfall II and Doom, shipped with fewer levels and features than I would have hoped for, only to add them in months later. And in the case of No Man's Sky, that was a game that promised basically everything and delivered on almost none of it. The specter of Peter Molyneux syndrome hung over that entire thing. But all things considered, this was a really good year for games during a year that was relentless overall, and I'm really hoping that things continue to get better into the coming months.